Welcome to this podcast episode all about self love. Now, this is the month of February, which is all about love, Valentine's, and so on. And also, on the day that this podcast goes live, it will be my birthday. And my birthday makes me think of my mother. My mother is no longer with us in physical form, but she was such a big part of my life. She was my champion, my best friend, and I found this card that I gave her for her 71st birthday. So this was she passed when she was 80, so it was 9 years before, but this card just really reminds me of her so much. The first laugh that answered my laugh, it says. The first eyes that lit up to see mine. The love that's lasted my lifetime. And you can hear maybe that I'm getting a little choked up even talking about that because I feel it. I still feel her love even though she's not here. And so kind of makes me think about love and how it's not something we can actually measure, but we know it's real. We've all felt love in our lives and it is truly real and it feels good. We all know that love feels good. Now, I do want to bring in some science, but I also just want to acknowledge that love is a feeling. Feelings are vibrations and they just feel good. But I also want to emphasize that love, it we think that it comes from someone else towards us, but it really is coming from us. We feel it. It's because of someone else that we can generate that feeling, but we can still generate that feeling, right? I read this card from my mother and I'm still generating that feeling of love. Feels so strong for me. It is real. So, what do we know about love and self love? So, like, what is self love? I think self-love is generating that feeling of love, and there's a number of ways we can do that. We can, like, just sit there and generate that feeling by recalling a memory and just teaching our body, "Can I just turn on that feeling of love just like that?" That is an act of self-love. But there's other things we can do, that are acts of self-love, which actually may not feel that good in the moment sometimes. It might be moving on from relationships that are no longer serving us or leaving a career like I did when we realize it's not lighting us up anymore, not fulfilling. It could be things as simple as like meal planning. That's something I talk about a lot in my community, my living pain free community, is meal planning and how that taking the time to do that, to make sure that you're going to be physically nourishing yourself is an act of self-love. So there is a connection between love and physical health. There's been plenty of studies on this. And I was reading one article called "The Biochemistry of Love." It's on PubMed. So if you PubMed is like a repository of scientific studies, and they're all backed up and so on. So they're following proper scientific protocols. So they were talking specifically about some of the neurotransmitters that are released. So we know about oxytocin is often called the love transmitter. So what they said in the study is that there's a wealth of new evidence indicating that oxytocin influences physiological responses to stress and injury in the body. So, what happens when we're feeling feelings of love? Our body releases oxytocin, among other things, but that oxytocin will actually create physiological responses to stress and injury. What does that mean? Healing. It means healing. And also, another quote from the same study said oxytocin can facilitate adult neurogenesis and tissue repair, especially after a stressful experience. So my experience and everything that I've learned is that a lot of chronic pain or chronic illnesses are brought on by stressful events, whether it's current or way in the past or ongoing, stress is a component. So oxytocin can actually help repair tissues, neurogenesis, generate new tissues in the body. So it actually can heal. So there's science. And we kind of know this anyway. We also know through the scientific studies that um, people, the number one indicator of longevity is the strength of people's relationships. So, relationships with other people, but I would say also your relationship with yourself. When you love yourself, when you have self love, it's just the love that you give out is a love that you receive as well. So if you're not feeling self love, you're probably not going to get a lot of love. But if you're feeling self love, if you love being with you, then other people love you and want to be with you. And it kind of doesn't matter to you actually when you start feeling more self love, but you will naturally attract more people and more love into your life. It's kind of coming back to like the law of vibration, right? It's a universal law. What you put out, you get back. And every feeling that we feel is a vibration. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit later. So, also, there was another study called Harnessing the Healing Power of Love. It was actually referring back to a different study that was published. And they said in studies of mice, they found that pair bonding in monogamous mice is protective against tumor growth, likely via changes in serum factors and cancer cell transcription. We propose that studying the pathway linking social stimuli to cancer cell gene regulation offers a means to identify novel pharmacological targets. Okay, whatever that is, basically what they're saying is that they found that when there was pairs of mice and they're monogamous, so in other words, they were caring for each other, um, they had they found that that love was protective against the growth of tumors in the mice. So, why is that? Well, we don't fully understand why, but we know that it does work. Of course, a lot of studies with mice are reflected in humans as well, or that the results are reflected in humans. And obviously, we can't always study humans in the same way. We can't put two humans together and then inject them with cancer and see how the cancer does with their relationship. Obviously, that wouldn't be very. It wouldn't be very. What's the word I'm trying to think of? Not right. Can't think of the word. Okay, so let's talk about some strategies for cultivating self love in healing. So I like to think about these, even though it's not really separate, I like to break them down into mind, body, and spirit. Really, mind, body, and spirit aren't separate at all, it's all in one. But let's just talk about some of these strategies in that format. So, how would you cultivate more self love in the mind with your thoughts? So, this is a way, we have this mind as a tool to help us. And a lot of times we're not using it in a way that serves us, but we are given this mind as a source for creative thinking. So, let's use the mind in a way that really does work to help us and use it to create feelings of love or do things that are going to support us. So, some ways of cultivating self love with the mind, you can use positive affirmations. Okay. I know a lot of people kind of poo poo affirmations, but affirmations are definitely a way that we can start shifting our thoughts. If we are like commonly a negative thinker, we can shift our thoughts to more positive, and it's also a way to reprogram the subconscious mind. So I did this a lot in the beginning. I was kind of because I had just lost my mother, I would speak to myself in the way that I would sort of hear my mother's voice and hear her being my champion, like, Janie, you're doing so well. You're a good and kind person. You've got this. You can do this. So I was really cheering myself on. And then I would switch it to I am. So most affirmations to be effective, you want to start them with I am. So you're stating them like as it's a thing that is now. You're stating them in the present tense. You want to state them in a positive way. So I am one I used to love, and it still really excites me. Is I am a healing machine. I am just getting started. I am improving my health every day and every way. I am an example of what's possible. That was another one I really loved. So, positive affirmations are one way to do that. And just really taking the time to do that. Anytime you take the time to change your thoughts, to notice, to have more awareness, that is an act of self love. Right? It'd be easier to just like sit in front of the TV maybe and, watch Netflix all day or lose yourself in a novel or distract yourself with some other way, shopping, whatever. To be consciously taking the time to do these things is an act of self-love. You can even recognize that. So sort of being the observer of yourself. You can say, "Hey, look at almost like look at me taking the time and caring for myself in that way." That's a nice thing to do. I'm a good person. Mindfulness, right? Mindfulness, I think of mindfulness as being that awareness, right? Being mindful of the moment, being mindful um, of what's going well in my life, being mindful of how I'm eating my food, being mindful of how good a shower feels, a hot shower feels on my skin when I'm there. So being mindful means like being in the moment, appreciating where you are in the moment. And reframing thoughts is another thing that I found really helpful because it's when you're mindful, you start to notice your thoughts, right? So you become aware of what you're thinking. And if you're thinking things like, and I did this, so I'm saying this with complete compassion. When I was in a lot of pain, I would ask, why is this happening to me? And what's my future going to be like? And this is so terrible. I'm in so much pain. It's not fair. Like these kinds of thoughts. Reframe those thoughts. My body is speaking to me with pain. My body is asking for help. I'm ready now to listen. I'm here. This is my body's way of speaking to me. So these are just some ways of reframing some thoughts. You need to be aware of your thoughts first. So be mindful of what am I thinking, and then can you reframe it? And you don't have to go all the way to life is full of rainbows and lollipops. You don't have to do that. Just choose like a better feeling thought, a little bit better. It's like it might even be, I'm feeling a little bit better now than I did when I first woke up this morning. Or I I'm feel like I'm going to feel better this evening. Just reach for something that's even just a little bit better and then keep stretching further and further. So, reframing your thoughts. Okay, so that's some mind techniques. So, what about some body techniques? So, how can you nurture your physical body? Well, one is like I talked about meal planning earlier. Maybe you can do some meal planning so that you can nourish your body with healthier food. I always say we make better decisions when we plan rather than when we're in the moment. So if you plan your meals, you're probably not going to choose to eat, a bag of potato chips for dinner, which you might have if you if you're hungry and you get home and that's all there is in the cupboard, right? So meal planning, plan nourishing meals, get the food for those meals, and then you're kind of making it easier on yourself because you've got the recipe there, you've got the food there, and so you can create that meal. So physically, you can nourish your body with better food. And when I say better food, I just start with, depending on where you are now, you might want to just start with eating real foods. Things that don't come from a package might be a great place to start. If you're a little bit further along and eat really well, then maybe you want to try something else. Maybe you want to try perhaps. I've had a lot of people have had reduction of inflammation by eliminating gluten, at least for a little while, or gluten containing products. That might be something you do. But if that's too big a stretch for you, don't start there. Just start with eating real food that's cooked well. Um, Another great practice is some gentle movement. So maybe, like, just depending on where you are now, you might feel like if you've got pain that you can't move at all. So try doing some gentle movement. So that might be moving in your chair, putting on some music and doing some chair dancing. I remember doing that. It might mean like walking around your garden, and then you might progress to walking around the block. And then you might progress further. Like, honestly, I started when all had all this pain. I had to start by just doing cheer dancing because I could hardly walk. And then I remember when I first walked around the block, it was a big deal. I was walking slowly. I was on Noel's, my husband's arm. And, but I was so proud of myself for walking around the block. Now I am running. Now I'm running and training uh, for um, for trail running. So don't compare yourself to where I am now. I started small. I'm telling you this because I want you to know that's where I had to start. And I had to celebrate where I was starting. Massage. If massage feels good for you, then massage is really great. Having human touch, especially with a wonderful massage therapist. I'm really lucky to have two great massage therapists, Allison and Rebecca. They're both trained in Reiki, so I get that some of that energy coming too. So if you like that, do that. If you don't like massage, don't do that. But for me, that was a practice that was really, really helpful. And other self care rituals, like what feels good for you. Maybe it feels good for you to go to the hairdresser and have someone wash your hair. Something really interesting I heard about that was that with all the vagus nerve, we have a lot of sensation around here. So when someone's touching your head like that, we get activation of the vagus nerve, which is that rest, digest, parasympathetic response of the nervous system, the relaxation response. So anything for you that means relaxation, then do that. Okay. And be in the moment and appreciate it as you're there. So if you are going and going to the hairdresser and having your hair washed and feeling like, feel the touch. If you're at a massage, feel the massage. If your self-care is going out for a walk in the sunshine, feel the sun on your face. Notice the breeze blowing. Notice what you see. Be in the moment as you're doing that. And then let's talk about spiritual ways to connect with with the spiritual aspect of self-love. So I would say for me, a big one there is breath work. Just concentrating on breath work. I believe that breath is spirit in the body. It once we finish our last breath, we're no longer in our body, right? So feel the breath as you're breathing. Notice where you're breathing. Imagine the breath coming in through the crown of your head and through the body and then out into the earth and back again. So really use the breath as a way to connect with your spirit. And you could also move on from there. Like meditation could be a practice for you, and meditation could just mean like just simply just sitting there and focusing on the breath. It could mean sitting there and connecting with stillness, stillness, stillness within you. It could be sitting there quietly and connecting with space beyond you. Meditation doesn't even have to be sitting there with your eyes closed. You can go on a walking meditation. You could be doing something like art that for you, if you're painting, maybe that's meditative for you or some other form of art. So maybe listening to music is meditative for you. Whatever it is that helps you connect with that, just that essence within you. You can find it in nature too. Well, when we go out in nature, we're really part of nature. We Sometimes you can have that feeling in nature where you feel like you are of um, part of the cycles of the world, the cycles of the earth, the trees. It's just something really good when you pay attention and when you feel part of it. So those are some great ways to cultivate self love where you can actually do that yourself. And then let's talk about a loving vibration. So I talked about this a little bit earlier that love is all feelings are vibration, right? The thoughts become a feeling, which is a vibration in the body. And so love is a vibration. And if I'm going to go onto like a little spiritual side here now, that love is the most healing vibration of all. But they can actually measure vibrations from our heart, which is where love. We If we think about love, that's where we touch, right? We instinctively know it's right here in our chest, at our heart center. And they can measure vibrations that come out from our heart like 10, 12 feet away. So it actually is a vibration. And I'm sure there will be instruments down the road that will even be able to measure love. Like, who knows? We can't really measure it now, but we also couldn't measure a lot. Like, no one knew really about gravity or could measure gravity before, or electricity. Didn't mean that it wasn't there. We just don't have the instruments yet. So I think we know instinctively, even without some kind of device to measure it, that this love is a vibration, and it's a feel good vibration. And when we feel love and when we feel good, that puts us into a healing state because we get into that parasympathetic state. So let's go back to that again. The body, the physical body, when we are when we're feeling love, and so there's been a lot of science done by the Heart Math Institute where they've correlated feelings with the heart, with vibrations from the heart. And so we know that when we have those kinds of feelings and then also responses, it puts us into that parasympathetic state of the nervous system. The vagus nerve gets activated. The heart goes into harmony and coherence, and the heart and brain are in coherence. They speak to each other. And so when we can cultivate feelings of love, then we can actually create an energetic vibration that's can promote healing, like right at the cellular level. So let's remember that every single cell, it, let's come back to energy. Everything is energy, including our tiniest little cells. And so energy is vibration and information. So if we are projecting and creating, let's call it a bath or a marinade, that's why I love that idea, a marinade of love, then we are creating that marinade that all of our cells are sitting in. And they're just like a food marinade, the cells are going to take on, right, that vibration, and it'll promote wellness and healing right down at that cellular level. We know instinctively that love feels good. So let's talk about how you can integrate self love into your daily life. So, what we're talking about here is habits, right? Whenever we talk about bringing something in daily, it's a habit. And so, how do we bring in new habits? In the beginning, we have to work at it, right? Until it becomes habit. Now, they used to say that it took 21 days to form a new habit. Now they know it's much longer. So it's like, I think, 80 something days. So let's just say 3 months. Let's just say 3 months to develop new habits. So, how can you develop new habits? You start by making yourself consciously do it every day. It often helps with habits. A great read is Atomic Habits by James Clear. And if you read James's book, he talks about habit, how if you're bringing in a new habit, it helps to start it by tying it to something that you already do. So that becomes the trigger. The thing that you already automatically do becomes the trigger for the new habit. So I love mornings. I find that mornings, um, the day doesn't get away from you, right? You can start a new habit in the morning and then it's done, right? You don't, because often what happens, you think you're going to do something, and then before you know it, the day is over and you didn't do the thing that you wanted to do. So do it in the morning. Do it in the morning. So what's going to be your trigger? You're waking up, you're getting out of bed. You wake up, you get out of bed. Perhaps you go to the bathroom first and then you do the new thing. So I like to build this sort of this mindfulness and self-care into my morning routine. And then it's a mindset thing, right? So it sets you up for the rest of the day. How you begin your day sets you up for the rest of the day. So if you start your day by setting it up for self-love and self-care, then you're going to see that more throughout your day. But no matter what, you've done it, right? So I love mornings, and I got a really great guideline for you that you can download. You can go to thewellnessengineer.com/mornings, and you can download my free guide. It's called Make Mornings Matter. It's a 3-part morning routine that you can fit into, I would say as little as 15 minutes or however long you want. Just make it fit into your schedule. The 3 parts, well, you can read all about it when you download the guide. And everyone's got 15 minutes, right? No one's schedule is that tight that you can't squeeze 15 minutes more for yourself. That just might mean you got to set your alarm 15 minutes earlier. But you can do this, my friend. You've got this. And when you start cultivating more self-love in your life, you can heal. And I contend that you can't heal unless you do have self-love. Because let's just go back to those cells again. If we're hating on our body, if we're mad at our body because it's manifested pain or chronic condition, it can't heal. We can't heal a body that we hate. We can't heal a person that we hate. So we want to love ourselves. And when we love ourselves through these little acts of self-care and self-love, then we're changing ourselves on a physiological level. We can begin to initiate healing. So, what's the one thing you can do today? I love to end with this. The one thing you can do today is to start a morning routine. Well, maybe I plan to start it tomorrow morning. You won't be able to do it today because you're probably not listening to this first thing in the morning as soon as you get up. But start a morning routine. Plan it for tomorrow. Get it all ready, whatever you will need for the morning. Get it ready tonight before you go to bed. Set your alarm for 15 minutes earlier if you need to do that. And spend 15 minutes. Download my guide. I got some great ideas there for you to cultivate this 3-part morning routine that I believe when you make it a habit can change your life. So thanks so much for joining me today. We've talked about self-love. We've talked about love as a healing vibration, how to bring more love into your life on a mind, body, and spiritual level, and how to make it a daily habit. And I've got that great guide for you. So go ahead and download that now. Get ready to start your new self-love practice for tomorrow. And I wish you a great day. Make sure that you subscribe and leave a comment and share this with your friends. There's always people that need more self-love in their lives. Have a great day, my friend. We'll see you next time on Wellness by Design.